a good partner of Premier's for a number of years now. This gentleman, his name is Brett Agnew with Invesco. Brett is a market leader with Invesco, and he's going to be sharing with us today a topic that seemingly is always somewhat of a challenge for advisors. Admittedly, I'm going to put my hand up as saying, yep, I'm still right there with you all. 28th year in the business, and I would say that I still kind of fit into the category of occasional struggle with how to ask consistently for referrals. And Brett's presentation is titled Preferrals. And so, Brett, I'm going to give it to you to take away, man. Please educate us on how we can do a better job with this. And we appreciate you being with us today.
Yeah, thanks, Mark, and good morning, all. Thank you for having me on the call. Just as a quick introduction, again, as Mark said, my name is Brett Agnew. I'm the market leader for Invesco. I took over for Mike Guman about a year and a half ago. I know many of you on the call probably know Mike Guman, especially if you're from the Eastern Central PA area. Mike is doing really well. He's still battling some health issues, but he's in the Lehigh Valley area with I believe it's 14 or 15 grandkids now. I know there's another one on the way and
Wow.
really enjoying his retirement. So it's impossibly big shoes to fill, taking over for such a great man in Mike Guman. But I've been in the business for about 12 years now. I was with another asset manager for the first 10, and have been really excited to be partnering with you all and working for Invesco. So thanks again for having me on. I know you all can see my screen here. You see this concept of Invesco Total CX, and what we've really tried to do, I would say, at Invesco is be the most client-centric firm in the industry. And I know that sounds like something that you probably hear from a lot of firms, but at Invesco, we have really put our money where our mouth is. We have spent huge amounts of money on proprietary research for all of our programs, and you'll see that reflected here today in this element. But what we've really done is designed it into the abbreviation of CEO, right? You all are already running your businesses, and you're doing so much more than just picking good investment product, right? That we think you're probably spending 90% of your time in other areas of the business. So this abbreviation of CEO, it stands for connecting with your clients, enhancing your business, and optimizing portfolios. And these are all different ways that Invesco can truly partner with you as somebody in the business. And just knowing that that's all back tested by already successful advisors and some of the top consultants in the industry, which I'll introduce here in a moment. But this presentation, Preferrals, it falls under that enhance your business, and that's what we'll focus in on today. Again, I just want to be clear right up front that Preferrals is not your usual training program on how to ask for a referral, right? We're not going to show up and tell you, some top producer's words from some other part of the country and have you memorize their lines and expect you when you are face to face, eyeball to eyeball with a client across the table to have the conviction and the confidence necessary in being able to get that out of your mouth in a way that's very natural and a comfortable way of doing that. Our research actually shows that's actually a very low success percentage play, and that in fact we're kind of going to do the opposite. What we believe the path to success, it lies in leveraging what you already genuinely believe. Many of you have been in the industry for a long time. I know Mark just said, kind of displayed his age there a little bit, but again, like what we want to take is, your base knowledge, like your genuine feelings of what you've experienced, what you've seen from your time in the industry, and kind of art and science this, right? The science being the framework that we think is going to allow you to have success, and then the art of it, which is kind of your personal touch and kind of putting those together in a way, all without the awkwardness of asking. So again, for today's goal, I always say this. You can kind of see the tagline there: to maximize the greatest source of new business for financial professionals using a research-based approach for generating referrals. Listen, as I mentioned, you all are already running successful businesses. Some of you have been in the industry for decades and have been very successful, and continue to bring in new assets. At the end of the day, if there's something that's working for you, stay on it. I think that's a big thing. But when it comes to asking for a referral, whatever comes out of your mouth most naturally for you is going to be what seems the most genuine. Some of the pushback that we get from the financial advisors is they say, well, I just do such a good job that, generally clients will just automatically give me a referral if it does come about. So I don't really need to ask for it. What our research has shown is that you're missing out on probably 4 to 6 really good clients every year by not finding a way to at least get something out of your mouth at the end of meetings or when things are going really well for that type of a client. And so that's really what we're going to kind of dive into. So this concept of a little background on the research though. So Invesco Global Consulting, we've had a decades long commitment to this research based program. We do all kinds of different types of consulting, whatever types of challenges or whatever you're planning or working on in your business. I would bet considerable money that there's some type of research or some type of training program or some information that Invesco Global Consulting can provide to you. They've been in the industry for a long time. They've been consulting with some of the best teams in the industry, and again, they're really are best in class. But what I wanted to do is just give you a little bit more research on some of the consultants that we work with. So on the far left there, you'll see Miss Lansky and Partners. Miss Lansky is a group that we've partnered with since 2007. They're actually initially were a political consultant and word specialist group, and essentially Invesco. We've brought them into the financial services industry. They do numbers of dial sessions, which essentially you bring in 15 to 20 to 30 accredited clients, and you can kind of go word by word, phrase by phrase with them to see what's resonating and what's not. And again, they are the experts in being a word specialist. So more to come on them, but really interesting group. And again, it's been a great partner to Invesco. R.A. Prince, Russ Allen Prince and Associates. What you'll find with them, they consult with a number of different types of family offices, kind of the ultra wealthy. They're one of the most published authors on the topic of private wealth, and also a longtime partner of Invesco. And then finally, Cerulli. Cerulli, many of you probably have heard of Cerulli or at least seen them. That's a consulting group out of Boston. I would say probably the top recognized authority of research in the area of financial services for over 30 years. Cerulli has been at the forefront of the financial services industry and have really been delivering some groundbreaking market intelligence and strategic business recommendations. So all three of these groups have made substantial contributions to this presentation, and all of our presentations. And then the last quick advertisement that I would give is you'll see it just popped up here, that Practice Innovation Index. That's the first of its kind proprietary information from Invesco. Often when I'm in the field, I get asked, well, what are they doing at this firm or what are they doing at that firm or across the country? This is a fantastic new tool that you can use to gauge yourself and your team against industry benchmarks. Look at it like a blood test. You don't study for a blood test. It's a quick 30-question survey and questionnaire. And then, well, essentially, we'll be able to come back to you and show you, hey, here's where you're really strong. Here's where you're doing really well. Here's some areas that we see some room for improvement. But most importantly, it's not just a diagnostic. We'll actually give you the consulting trackways to improve yourself and your team in those key areas. So many teams use this Practice Innovation Index, especially we were just talking about this before the call started, but hard to believe we're already heading into September. 2026 will be here before we know it. If you and your team get together to put your goals and do kind of a team building and preparation for 2026 and what you're hoping to accomplish, that Practice Innovation Index is a fantastic area to kind of kickstart it. And again, we're happy to bring in our consultant to help make that work as well. So keep that in the back of your mind as we move through the end of the year. Just a little bit more on kind of Invesco Total CX. And again, our work with Ms. Lansky and Partners has culminated into one of the largest libraries for financial professionals. We've done over 65 dial sessions, which again, I'll show to you here in a minute. But just a quick advertisement because there's so much that our group can do for you. Again, a few examples. Advocations is another good presentation that we really like. It's essentially talking about how to host successful client events. Many are struggling with different types of seminars these days, and trying to find the right type, getting in front of the right type of people and prospects. That Avocations presentation is excellent. Golden Hour is another one. It's not the clients that you win, it's the clients that you keep, and really talks about how you're spending it, not just your day, but your week, your month, your quarter, and your year, and how you kind of plan that out. Changing the guard is a comprehensive approach to succession planning. So if some of you are either taking over books of business or looking to retire, excuse me, that's another great one. And then finally, I would mention to you priceless. Priceless is all about the language of how you talk about your value and your cost. And I always give the example that the most successful financial advisors are not always the ones that are the most educated on the markets and show clients the best performance. It's all about how you can make them feel, how you talk to them, how you make them feel. And again, what our research has shown is that people coming in, especially prospects, to talk about their financial situation, they have the same type of anxiety or stress levels as they would going into a doctor's office to talk about a medical condition or an illness. So just keep that in your mind, that anything that we can be doing as financial professionals to make the client or the prospect feel more at ease are incredibly important, and kind of the foundation of the business. And that is where we've spent a lot of our time. But again, our agenda for today, let's dig into referrals. What we're going to spend on time on is, again, the greatest source of referrals. And then next, the unmasking of asking. Kind of goes back to the tagline, right? Like, what is the problem with asking? Advisors tell us the energy changes in the room, things get awkward, uncomfortable, and basically never did it again. And then finally, the preferrals method. And essentially what this is the pathway out of this. It's a powerful exercise to get your genuine conviction and show how you can kind of make that a core belief for you, all without the awkwardness of asking. So with that, take a sip of water here, and then we will dive in. All right, the greatest source of referrals. I'm going to put up a list here, and as I'm just talking, kind of go through that list. You'll see seminars, cold calling, walk-ins, referrals from clients, referrals from attorneys and CPAs, social media, direct mail, and think about where you think you're getting your number one source of new clients. And just to give you a little background as you're looking through that and kind of thinking it through, we did a study back in 2013. It was with 338 advisors, all very successful, minimum income of at least 200,000. Many were much higher than that. We put this list in front of them, and again, trying to identify where they were getting most of the referrals from. So in 2013, what we ended up finding was that referrals from clients was the number one source, and at a rate of 77.5%. Now, that was back in 2013. A lot has happened since 2013, probably the most significant being COVID. So, did the hands of times change things? Did COVID change things? So we ended up rerunning this survey with RA Prince and Associates in 2021, and that was with 478 financial advisors. And what we discovered is the number actually rose significantly to a much higher level, to almost 90%. And on some levels, you might be thinking, well, that's interesting, but it's not overly surprising. Here's where I do think it gets very surprising. It's because if that is the case, right? If the best way to step on the gas pedal to get more referrals from your existing best clients, um, you know, what is the number one thing that we can be doing? And at a rate of 96%, all of them gave us a one-word answer, and that was to simply ask, right? Ask for the referral. But then we tracked how often those same advisors, who at a rate of 96% actually asked, again, eyeball to eyeball across the table from a client with one of their top clients. And what we discovered, in fact, was zero times, right? At a rate of about 88% of advisors do not ask clients for referrals. So the example I would want to give is like, well, so what gives, right? If clients are our number one source of new clients, yet it seems that no one is doing anything about it, it just doesn't seem to make sense. And what the answer actually lies in the research. In the surveys that we did with both accredited clients and prospects and financial professionals, both came back with words like awkward, uncomfortable. We even had multiple write-ins, things like salesy, cheesy, car lot like. Essentially, advisors were picking up on that negative response and body language from the client. So the majority of advisors basically just decided to never ask again. And for this reason, most advisors don't ask. And that is this terrible rock and a hard place that we find ourselves in as an industry. And so that's kind of the bad news is. The good news is that that is precisely the problem that the referrals program solves for advisors throughout the industry. So with that, let's that kind of takes us into the next session that goes into the research methodology of a dial session. And so what we ended up doing was the first thing we went out into the industry. We worked with all these different types of broker dealers, and we were kind of looking at trying to identify like what are some of the most common approaches, or what is the industry teaching advisors on how to ask clients for referrals. Right? We gathered up all that information, and what ended up happening was there was two strategies that were absolutely the most common that were being taught. And then what we end up doing is we take those two strategies and we put them into those dial sessions. So again, a dial session, we fill a room with 35 to 45 accredited investors, and then we actually run those by them to gauge their emotional reaction to what it is that they're hearing. So everyone is given a dial. Again, it kind of looks like a phone. And if you're liking what you're hearing, you're turning the dial up. If you don't like what you're hearing, you're turning the dial down. And again, it's giving us word by word, phrase by phrase, presentation by presentation feedback on what's resonating with accredited investors and what's not. Um, and then finally, what we end up doing is so after that is we again to try to create this optimal message based on all of the research that gets essentially the best response from those accredited investors. So again, first, this is what identifying the common approach will look like. This is what one of the dial sessions, this is what one of the focus groups kind of looks like. So you can see the folks in the room. Um, the people kind of talk in very like plain, kind of a boring voice because we don't want, you can't have in these types of surveys, you can't have the person that's reading the scripts try to influence one way or the other. So they do kind of speak in a very monotone way. But this is essentially what one of the dial sessions look like. And just to give you kind of a read, so 50 essentially is even. Like, so when I first came on this call, whether you knew me or not, you kind of start at 50. And then essentially what we found is there's these success thresholds and the damage threshold. So as we're operating, if the client is liking what they're hearing and they're turning that dial up, if you can get it to where they turn it up to and it hits that 65, that is what is considered our success threshold. That means the client they're liking what you're saying, they're liking what they're hearing, they like you as a person. That's somebody that they'd be more than willing to kind of work with. And then the opposite is true as well. So the damage threshold, if you get below that number, that 35, that is again, they're really not liking what you're saying, and worse yet, it's hard to kind of climb back. Once you hit the damage threshold, it's hard to climb back into getting into the client into that success threshold. So what you'll see is like this guy's on mute, you can't hear him, but so right there, you're seeing that big climb, whatever he's talking about right now, they're really liking. And then all of a sudden right there, he must have said something that the accredited investors did not like to hear. And that's just a kind of a generic example of what we're looking for. So we can go back in as at Invesco and break down, okay, what did he say at that midpoint that we saw this jump to, really high success threshold? And then what did he say later on in the conversation that really dropped it? So, and that is how we base all of our presentations. We can take that real time data and say, what's working, what isn't, what's resonating, what's not resonating. And then we take that information and provide it back to you all. So the first one again is it's obligation method. So the obligation approach we've all heard before. The kind of the basic idea essentially is that this is one of the first ones that we saw again that our industry is teaching advisors. That's obligation method. It's one of the two that we found out is being used the most. And essentially that one is like I'm so busy kind of managing your money that I neglect my marketing and really rely on my clients to become my kind of de facto marketing team. Do you have a few names of people that I could reach out to, or et cetera? So this is not going to work as far as the volume, but what I'll do is we'll look at the script. So again, you always start at 50, right? 50 is that median threshold. And so all of a sudden it pops up. The first part of that conversation is, now that we're through for today, let me ask you for your help with my business. I mentioned in our first meeting that I'm compensated in several ways. Fees are one way. I also get compensated by introductions to other people by my satisfied customers. And so, not terrible. You see the dial, it is dropping. It hits a level of about 45, which again is, essentially what that's happening there is the client's wondering, like, all right, they're teeing me up for something, like what's coming. And then, can you think of any family, friends, or associates who might benefit from my services? I'm really interested in meeting people who run their own successful businesses. Whom do you know that might fit that description? And right there, we dropped down to a level of about 37, which isn't completely at that damage threshold, but we're certainly flirting with it. So when we went back and we asked those accredited investors, we said, what's the percentage of those investors more likely to give a referral after hearing that message, right? So after that advisor said that to you, are you more likely to give them a referral? And what shockingly found was that a rate of zero, the clients that we interviewed, 0% were more likely to give a referral, which I honestly didn't think that script was that bad. It's, something that is taught in our industry. And it's just, that was pretty shocking to us at Invesco that 0% of those clients were going to be more likely to give a referral after hearing that. So when we kind of threw out that, okay, the obligation method does not work, we gotta keep digging. The next one is called the exclusivity approach. Again, we'll fast forward through this because you can't really hear it. But again, the exclusivity one is essentially, hey, we don't take on very many clients, but because I have a good relationship with you, if you have anybody that I'll happily help them out, type of thing. But let's kind of break this down again for the exclusivity method. Again, you start at a level of 50, which is kind of baseline. One of the services I offer to you, a preferred client of mine, is the opportunity to introduce me to your friends, family, and associates, that they may also take advantage of the same type of services that have benefited you. Immediately down to 33. So just right off the bat, that one sentence, we've already hit the damage threshold. When you're speaking with someone whom you feel might benefit from working with me, share with them what it is that you like working with me, without kind of staying at the same level. And some of you might laugh or chuckle and think that's not true, but this has come up in many broker dealer conversations. And that, oh, excuse me. Hopefully my screen didn't go out there for you all. It looks like it just went black. Oh, Mark, can you still see my screen?
No, Brett, I see you personally.
Okay. Sorry about that. Let me just go back there. My
That's all
screen.
right. No worries.
Again, so hopefully you can see it now, Mark, but
Yep, all good.
that final part is just this summary sheet will remind you of steps to follow when you want to introduce me to people. And again, that sounds quirky, but that is a real thing that advisors sometimes will pass to their client, kind of a summary sheet of things to use as kind of, again, their de facto marketing team. That's a kind of a bulleted sheet to provide to the client. With that, you drop down to, oh, where is it? Sorry, just give me 1 second here, Mark. Apologize. So, anyways, sorry for the distraction there. But again, that drops you down to a level at 25. And once you hit that level of 25, Mark, that essentially that's almost hard to do. Like you'd almost have to kick the client's dog to get down to that type of level. It's a really damaging threshold level where that is essentially the point of no return, where you're almost at risk of losing the client based off the way you've asked that. So again, neither of these seem like they're that, unreasonable of asks. There's probably different ways of doing that. But again, when we went back again for that exclusivity method, are you more likely to give a referral after hearing that message? I'll save you the angst. It's that, again, there's 0% more likely to give you a referral for that. So again, so you may now be asking, well, why is asking for a referral such a challenge, right? And what we've essentially figured out is there's this, in the field of psychology, there's this principle called homeostatic equilibrium. And what essentially it is in life in general, right? Any relationships that you have, there's kind of a give and a take, right? There's you're sharing services. I provide a level of service, and in return, I pay you money or whatever it may be. It's even in family relationships, businesses. There is this equilibrium that we deal with, right? In the financial professionals type of example, the financial professional provides really good investment advice and financial planning, and in return, that top client pays. There's a cost to doing business, right? They pay a fee or however the advisor is compensated for doing that. But essentially, as soon as you hear the hey, do you know anybody? That equilibrium kind of gets threshed off balance to the point where you could honestly risk seeing that client walk away from you. So again, that kind of takes us into this preferrals method and where we're seeing the most amount of success. And so you can't hear this again because we're over Zoom. Generally, in a presentation, you'll be able to hear this. But this first preferrals method is the first way of looking at things, and we'll break that down in a little bit more detail. But again, through all these dial sessions, we started at 50, and the first thing that it says is you've probably noticed that I don't often ask you for introductions, and that's because I never want you to feel obligated to refer to me or put you on the spot. But given all the upheaval in the industry over the last few years, I see some things that concern me. I see investors who are overpaying in taxes and fees. Some people are not getting comprehensive financial care for their entire lives. And some investors aren't receiving adequate communication in times of market volatility. For these reasons, if there's anyone you're close with who might benefit from a fresh perspective on their finances, I would be happy to offer my help. And so, again, we started at a level of 50. The first part there, you probably noticed that I don't often ask you for introductions. That puts us at a level of 57. So immediately you're kind of establishing, telling the client, being very real with them on how you feel. So they like that. And then that second part, again, given all the upheaval in industry, and you start talking about things that concern you or things that other clients could be benefiting from, that our testing brought us up to a 64. So we're almost at the success threshold. For these reasons, if there's anyone you're close with who might benefit from a fresh perspective on the finances, I'd be happy to offer my help. But pretty much stays the same. But again, we're sitting now at a success threshold of right around 66, and so that's going to be kind of the background of what the preferrals method is. But we're going to kind of break that down into a little bit more detail. But the long and the short of it is, again, there was no bias to us trying to sell this, right? We did thousands of these sessions trying to find like what the best method was, and this method is the one that screened out the best. How much more likely are you to give a referral after hearing that message? I thought it was very impressive. At a rate of about 59%, those accredited investors were more likely to give a referral after hearing that message, which is a huge jump. It's not perfect. Are you going to get a referral every single time? Of course not. But again, at a rate of 59%, it's pretty impressive numbers based off of the research. So what I want to do is break it down a little bit. And what it is, it really boils down to three key things that you have to do when you're asking for a referral. So the first is you need to preserve that client equilibrium. I showed the kind of the imbalancing there. And again, right off the bat, you probably noticed that I don't often ask you for introductions. It's because I never want you to feel obligated to refer to me or put you on the spot. Again, automatically making the client feel like, hey, nothing's changing. You're just very much preserving that equilibrium. That second part again is sharing your convictions, right? Again, you've all been in this industry a long time. Like, what are some of the things that you're seeing when prospects are coming in, or when you're seeing different plans that that you can help them with, right? And so maybe people are overpaying in taxes and fees, or they're not getting comprehensive financial care, or they're not receiving adequate communications, especially in times when the market is volatile. So you're sharing your convictions. And then finally, you're closing with an offer to help. There's no asking involved, right? So for these reasons, if there is anyone that you're close with who could benefit, I'd be happy to offer my help. You're not making them feel uncomfortable. Excuse me. You're not putting them on the spot. You're simply, it's an offer to help. There's no asking involved. So again, the obligation method and the exclusivity method, which have been taught in our industry for years, 0%. That preferrals method at a rate of 59% is pretty impressive. And again, it really does baseline off these three things. If you take nothing else from this presentation, know that when you're asking for a referral, these are the three major things that you have to do. You have to preserve the client equilibrium. You have to share your genuine convictions, and then you're closing with an offer to help. There really is no asking. What we end up doing is going a little bit further though, because there's in this preferrals method, there was a few negative words in here that you want to try to stay away from, right? Words like but has a negative connotation, overpaying, not getting, aren't receiving, anyone you're close with. These are all words that Ms. Lansky and partners identified as kind of words to lose, not use, as you're speaking. And again, this is going to be something that you have to practice. Don't let it throw you off as well. Ms. Lansky comes out with all kinds of really interesting feedback, even like the word fee screens terribly on these when we do these dial sessions. What they found is that the word cost actually screens really well. The word fee sounds punitive, has a very negative connotation to it. But I even in my daily travels, I still can't get the word fee out of my mouth. It's something that we've been pushing for the last 10 years. But if you can, like the word cost screens really well. So based off of this research, what the optimal preferrals message is again, you've probably noticed that I don't often ask you for introductions. It's because I never want you to feel obligated to refer to me or put you on the spot. When we're sharing our convictions, try to keep it more positive. So instead of using but you're using at the same time, given all the upheaval in the industry over the last few years, I see some things that concern me. I see investors who might save more with cost efficient, tax smart strategies. I see others who might do more with their money if they had comprehensive financial care. And then I see others who might benefit from better communications, especially in turbulent markets. These are all positive spins on what initially were kind of negative connotations. And that does make a big difference. And then finally, instead of anyone that you're close with, that's a huge, range of people, right? We're close with a lot of people probably, but for these reasons, if there's anyone that you care about who might benefit, just that one simple change to anyone that you care about, all of a sudden it limits it down to probably a few different names that would come to their mind that they would be more likely to give you again a referral. What we ended up getting when we did this with a lot of advisors is one of the pushbacks was, well, those three steps, it's a little bit long-winded. It might be tough to get all that out of your mouth. So what we wanted to do is we actually ran a shortcut and we tested this. And here's kind of the example. Again, apologies for the volume not working, but again, as always, you start off at 50. And the shortcut to it is I wanted to share with you that we're currently accepting new clients and enjoy working with people just like you. So if there is anyone who would make sense to refer to us, we would be happy to meet with them. Keeps you actually goes up a little bit to 56. And again, just a very quick shortcut way of kind of quickly getting it out of your mouth. Some advisors are more comfortable with that. When we end up doing the kind of the survey there to see if they're more likely, it actually does get a very positive response at a rate at 46%. But what our team essentially is showing is that that preferrals method where you really hit on those three key areas is still the most effective. But again, for me, it's all about everyone's different, right? Everyone has different personalities. You have different ways of running your business. But the most important thing is finding a way that when you are meeting with a client, generally, especially just as you bring them on and they've been all set up and the experience has been very good, that is the timing of when they're most likely to give you a referral. That preferrals method, I think, is still the number one. So what I will send to you all out is this preferrals method. The preferrals toolkit is where you can break down a little bit. And what you'll see in the back of it is kind of a few different steps. So the first one is when you're asking for referrals, what are the main things that you do not want to do or be, right? Like when you're thinking about that, like and this is where kind of your genuine convictions come in, right? When you're really thinking about it, like what are the main reasons why you don't ask clients for referrals? And again, my answers were I never want to clients feel obligated, or I never want to put clients on the spot. But those are just my answers. If you like those ones and they resonate with you, then great. But again, if there's other things like we really want you to make this your own as far as again, when asking for referrals, what are the main things you do not want to do or be? And then the second part of it, the step two, is what are your biggest concerns that you see among investors that are not being served well today? And I'm sure there are a number of different things that you can think of when you are. I mean, I even experienced this myself when talking to some of my friends and family and hearing about, investment decisions that they're making, or, not doing adequate planning as far as financial planning is concerned. But you all, I'm sure, have way more different interesting stories as far as who've come in and kind of the concerns that you see. So what I put again is I see investors that could likely save more with cost efficient and tax smart strategies. I said I see investors that could likely do more with their money if they had comprehensive financial care. And then we said I see investors that could likely benefit from better communication, especially in turbulent markets. So again, think about that and resonate with that. Again, I'm going to send you this PDF, but fill this out. A lot of folks will sometimes just pick two of these. If you want three, great. But again, I really want you to take ownership in this and really make it your own. This is where the science and the art really kind of comes together. And then finally, that step three is we're going to put it all together, right? So you're filling this out, where again, what we're really wanting to do is we're preserving that client equilibrium, we're sharing our convictions, and then we're closing with an offer to help, and we're not asking. And this is not something that you quickly do in the next 30 minutes and then try it out at 1 o'clock this afternoon, right? Where some of the stress and anxiety comes in doing this is not feeling confident getting it out of your mouth. So it may feel uncomfortable, but I know advisors that whether they're driving to or from work, or in front of the mirror, or they're testing it in front of their close friends or other advisors that they work with. Um, Practice this and get it down. The one that you make, get that down to, practice it 50, 100 times, where when it does come time that you are, again, across the table from a really good client, and you know that there's probably some really good referrals to provide you, that it's second nature. I always give the example of, if you think about Michael Jordan or Tom Brady, like any of the best athletes in the world, like the number one thing that they said is like, were you not nervous in those like pressure moments? It's like, of course I felt nervous and I felt pressure. And did I hit the game winning shot every time? No, I didn't. But I felt comfortable in that moment because I knew I could go back to exactly like I practiced that shot 500 times over the course of my life or more. So once it does, it just kind of goes into muscle memory, and I put up the shot, and more times than not, it works. And it's the same thing with this is no different. It should be something that you have so ingrained in your brain that it just simply naturally comes out of your mouth, and it's not an uncomfortable or an awkward thing for the client to experience. So again, just to review, the greatest source of referrals, we found out 90% of advisors' next best client is coming from a referral from a client. But we've also found out that 90% of advisors simply don't ask. We think that is costing you around 4 to 6 really good new clients every year. So try to find a way of thinking about that. And then secondly, again, the unmasking of asking. We really went into, what is kind of the valley there, right? Where feeling awkward or uncomfortable. We looked into some of the ways our industry has been teaching advisors to ask, and probably why they haven't been having success. And then finally, that preferrals method. So again, I'll send this toolkit over to Premier Wealth, and then they can forward it over to all of you. Maybe you can even put that on your internal site. But again, thank you very much for the time today. I'll save us all a few more minutes here, but essentially that is the preferrals presentation. But the last thing I would do is encourage you, our website, invesco.com/totalcx. That has a list of all the different presentations, all the trainings, all the consultations that we provide. Again, we know that you as advisors are probably going to be cutting down the number of partners that you work with to probably 3 to 5 partners over these next few years. Not only does Invesco have the product, again, the number of mutual funds, ETFs, SMAs, our private markets business, it really is second to none. We pride ourselves on that, but we also recognize that you're looking for a lot more than just really good product. there's so many different ways that we can work with you on the value add side and truly become, hopefully a partner to your business. So thank you very much for the time, Mark. I'll turn it back to you to close us out, and have a great rest of your week, and have a safe and happy Labor Day weekend.
Yeah, Brett, thank you so much. Hey, that's a great presentation. And honestly, the one word takeaway that I got from all of that is reframing. Certainly, you brought up great points of the traditional methods that we were taught over time as to how to ask for referrals if we do it all. And it makes a lot of sense. So reframing, through the process you just shared, that really makes a lot of sense. And the results you were showing and sharing was also interesting to see. And that certainly gives us more confidence to be thinking about, okay, that there must be something to this. So I need to go back to square one and kind of retool myself as to how I ask, for referrals going forward, especially since referrals are such a large source of growth for us, right? So it's definitely worth our time to do that. So again, thank you for that. I know we do need to wrap up here, but before we do that, does anybody have any questions for Brett at this point before we do go ahead and sign off? All right. Well, honestly, Brett, I think your presentation spoke for itself, made a lot of
Oh, thank you.
sense. And thanks for adding this value today. This is definitely what I would consider to be appreciative value. Going above and beyond, looking at things from a different perspective and shining on this in a different light. So thank you for your time, Brett. Thanks for your ongoing partnership and support. And we certainly hope everybody in the call has a great day, and
Mark,
hopefully you're able to institute this.
Mark, this is Jody. Jim Williams has his hand up.
Oh,
Jim,
he did. Okay, Jim, go ahead.
Hey, Brent, it was a great presentation. It was uh, I've not seen those stats before, so it was very helpful.
Thank you.
And I'm really interested in that language, those language experts. I've been doing it similarly, but not as concise as fixing that language. So it was really helpful. This is really simple. I'm not sure I heard the website. It was Invesco.com, total GX or CX.
Yeah, so Invesco.com and then / total CX. That's where you can find all that information, but not to worry too. What I'll do in follow up is I see Sebastian on the call as well. I'll send over the toolkit as well as a link to the whole program. And it's actually an interactive PDF where you can kind of scroll over the different presentations, and kind of I would encourage you to kind of get lost on it, and look at it yourself. And then if they're, depending on where you are too, like I'm happy to work with you, or whoever your Invesco market leader is. If you want to kind of partner with us, we're happy to walk you through some of the information as well. But yeah, Invesco.com / total CX. That stands for the total client experience. And again, I'll loop back with those two PDFs for you.
Okay, great. Will you be in Hershey next week?
That's a good question. I'll talk to Mark and Sebastian about that, and we'll see. I don't know if we figured that one out yet or not, but I would like to be if I can be for sure.
Okay.
And Brett, just for Jim's benefit, Jim lives, he operates in Lancaster, Pennsylvania here. Is that part of your
Perfect.
territory?
That's me. So I would cover Jim. So that's perfect.
Great.
Yeah. So we can, I'm happy to schedule some time with you one-on-one, and then, yeah, we can take you through some of this as well. So appreciate your question.
All right. Thanks, Brett.
Sorry I hopped in late here, Brett, but thank you for doing this. Mark, thanks for subbing in for me today. Appreciate it. Yeah, whatever you have, Brett, send over. We'll blast that out along with the webinar recording that we were doing today. And then if we want to connect offline about Hershey, feel free to reach out.
Sounds great. Well,
But thanks for doing this today. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you all. And again, we really appreciate the partnership with Invesco over the years, and anything that we can be doing to help you, we want to be doing. So thank you all for your continued trust and your partnership with us, and we'll look forward to connecting with you again soon.
Excellent. Have a good day, everybody. Thanks, Brett.
Thanks.